Hello everyone, my name is Alejandro Ramirez, and I will be briefly discussing the two culture plunges that I decided to do for this project. The first culture plunge I decided to do was the Chinese American Museum. The Chinese American Museum is located in downtown Los Angeles, in what is now known as El Pueblo de Los Angeles, a historical place in Los Angeles, and it goes through the history of the Chinese American experience here in the United States from the 1800s to present. And the reason I decided to do that was because I've been to a lot of museums that are down there, but they're mostly Mexican American museums, and I did not know that the Chinese American Museum existed right next to a lot of these museums that I've gone to, which is why I decided to do that. And then the second culture plunge I decided to do was the University Synagogue, which they consider themselves Reconstructionist Judaism, and which they welcome everyone from different religious backgrounds, those who are interested in learning about Jewish backgrounds or faith. These are the two culture punches I decided to do, and I will discuss further on why I decided to do them. The Chinese American Museum is located in downtown Los Angeles, where people have the opportunity to learn about the Chinese American history. As you walk in, you have a welcome sign which states, "Our exhibits share the history, culture, and experiences of people of Chinese ancestry living in the United States." Currently, the museum is located in the Garnier Building, which is the oldest surviving Chinese building in Los Angeles. It was built in the 1890s. The building is listed in the National Registers of Historic Places as part of the Los Angeles Plaza Historic District. Gold Rush started in 1848. By the 1850s, the United States Census had listed 2 Chinese men in the United States, and by 1852, more than 20,000 Chinese entered the United States, mostly in California. However, as time went by, Chinese were excluded from many things. For example, in the 1870s, they were excluded from naturalizing and becoming citizens of the United States because they were not white. By 1871, something known as the Chinese Massacre, where 19 men and boys died in downtown Los Angeles and Chinatown, is a history that many do not know. By 1900s, Chinese immigrants had already experienced a lot of hostility towards them, especially since the passage of the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which was not repealed until 1943. By 1910, Angel Island was created to process Asian immigrants, where many Chinese immigrants waited years due to the exclusion. However, the U.S. did not stop there. The Cable Act was passed in 1922, which stated that any woman who married a foreigner would lose their citizenship. This was a way to keep non-white immigrants from naturalizing in the United States. By the mid-1900s, you start to see Asian Americans depicted in Hollywood. However, this reminded me of the documentary we saw in class, The Real Bad Arab, on how we only have one side of certain minority groups in the United States, which has a negative effect in the long run in our society. Unfortunately, as I was talking to people who worked at the museum, they told me that the original Chinatown was destroyed in order to make way for Union Station. Therefore, Chinatown was relocated about a mile away from its original location. This saddened many because the original buildings were destroyed, where very few are left. The new Chinatown was open in 1938. However, it was not the same to many. Very little space was given to them, and as the city grows, people are being displaced since not everyone can afford the new apartments. The second culture plunge I decided to do was attend University Synagogue. University Synagogue was founded in 1987 by 16 men and women, as stated in their website. Furthermore, University Synagogue is a Reconstructionist Judaism, which is a progressive, contemporary approach to Jewish life. As I walked into the synagogue, people approached me and told me, "Shalom." It so happened to be that the day I went, a bar mitzvah was happening. However, before I made my way into the temple, they handed me a yarmulke, which symbolizes modesty and reverence when praying. Furthermore, they also gave me a prayer shawl, known as a talit. It is worn by adults past 13, where the 4 corners symbolize earth. As service begins, there is something called the Ark, which houses the Torah scrolls. Once it is opened, we all have to rise in respect for the Torah. However, something that I found very interesting is that they are inclusive of both men and women. Moreover, they also welcome everyone from different religious backgrounds. Therefore, they guide you throughout their service. Additionally, the rabbi is very engaging with his audience because he welcomes everyone to the stage to take part of the ceremony since they know that this is a community. The rabbi invited us to the stage to see one of the Torah scrolls up close and told us quick facts about him. He told us that it takes about a year to make a Torah scroll and everything is handmade. The day I attended service, a bar mitzvah was happening, in which a 13-year-old is old enough to perform the commandments of Jewish life, which is why they do a bar mitzvah. Moreover, as I did my own research, they have something that is called a rabbi, which is a Jewish spiritual leader, which leads the congregation in prayer. They also have something that is called a cantor, which is an official who sings music and leads prayers in a synagogue. Overall, their service is very different compared to what I am used to in the Catholic Church. For example, during the service, the kid who had his bar mitzvah carried one of the scrolls around the temple, and everyone followed him while singing and dancing and going in circles around him. To compare both of my cultural plunges, one, both groups, the Chinese Americans and the Jewish people, are groups that have been marginalized in the United States. Two, when it comes to our K-12 system, very little is spoken about the issues both groups have gone through in the United States. And three, both groups included the history of other people who do not necessarily identify as Jewish or Chinese American. On the other hand, to contrast my cultural plunges, something that I did not see when I was at the Chinese American Museum is if religion had an impact on the Chinese immigrants who came to the United States. In Chapter 2, Culture, Teaching, and Learning, the authors state, and I quote, "Consequently, students who are encultured in the dominant culture possess greater cultural capital. Conversely, those who do not possess sanctioned cultural capital experience symbolic violence, wherein their cultural and social resources are devalued by school. Therefore, I feel that this is related to the history of Chinese Americans that is not told in our K-12 system, because it is not valued by our school system." Overall, attending the Chinese American Museum in downtown Los Angeles has been very rewarding because I learned so many things I did not know about before. On the other hand, attending a synagogue also exposed me to a religion I would never have gone to if it wasn't for the class. According to James A. Banks in Multicultural Education Characteristics and Goals, he states, and I quote, that we must think of the school as a social system in which a number of identifiable variables and factors, such as school, culture, and politics, need to change in order to sustain an effective multicultural school, end quote.